Hello, welcome back to Learn Oikonomia. In this video, we are going to answer the question, do fiscal and monetary policies affect the aggregate demand? We have already seen what fiscal policies are, what monetary policies are, and also the meaning of aggregate demand. So in this video, we are going to link all these three concepts, the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, and aggregate demand. All these are connected. So let's answer the question, do fiscal and monetary policies affect aggregate demand? Let's see the link among these three variables. Let's get started. I'm going to give you a very short understanding with respect to all these concepts. First, coming to the concept of aggregate demand. This is a macroeconomic concept, not only the concept of aggregate demand, but also fiscal policy and monetary policy. All these are actually concepts which come under the domain of macroeconomics. So, coming back to aggregate demand is something which represents the total demand for goods and services in the economy. When you look into a demand of a particular person, that means that it is individual demand. The demand of a person with respect to a particular commodity, that means that individual demand, and this is something which come under the arena of microeconomics. We are not looking into the aspect of microeconomics. Since we are looking into the concept of aggregates, we look into the arena of macroeconomics. Thus comes the concept of aggregate demand. So it is the total demand for goods and services in an economy. Okay, and this is something which represents the economic well-being or the growth of a particular nation. Coming to fiscal and monetary policies, fiscal policy is a set of policies taken by the central government, and monetary policies are the policies taken by the central bank of an economy. Whether it is fiscal policy or monetary policies, both would affect aggregate demand, because this could influence the factors which is used to calculate aggregate demand. It affects the consumer spending on goods and services. It affects the investment spending on business on capital goods. It affects the government spending on public goods and services, as also it would affect export as well as imports. So whether it is monetary policies taken by the central bank of an economy, or whether it is fiscal policies taken by the central government, this would have implications upon major economic aggregates like your consumption expenditure, your investment expenditure, your government expenditure, and net exports. So you know that all these would make the totality of all these would make the aggregate demand in the economy, right? So um, um, coming to the fiscal policies, we know that there are two main tools which are used by the government. These are government spending and taxation, which would influence employment, household income, consumer spending, investment, etc. Now, coming into monetary policy, you will have qualitative measures and quantitative measures taken by the central bank of an economy. It would affect business expansion, it would affect net exports, it would affect employment, it would affect the cost of debt, it would affect consumption, saving, and whatnot. Moving to the link between fiscal policy and aggregate demand, we can see that policies like government spending and tax rates definitely have its implications upon aggregate demand. If the government is taking expansionary fiscal policies, that means that the government is pumping money into the economy. The government is taking policies in such a way to help the people to have money in their hands. So, expansionary fiscal policy would include increase in public spending and reduction in tax rate. Fiscal policy, when it becomes expansionary, it would enact in response to recessions or employment shocks. This would increase government spending, especially in the arenas of infrastructure, education, as well as unemployment benefits. If you look into Keynesian arguments, we can see that Keynes, along with his followers, they have supported government spending. They say that during the period of liquidity trap, there won't be any investment because MEC, the marginal efficiency of capital, is very low. So even though the interest rate is very low, people won't come and invest. In that scenario, government should come and invest. So this will create some autonomous investment in the economy. As a result of multiplier effect, there would be what what is known as induced investment. So as a result of that, there would be growth. So the importance of government spending, it is something which is highlighted by Keynes and his followers. As per Keynesian economics, these programs can prevent a negative shift in aggregate demand by stabilizing employment among government employees and people involved with stimulated industries. We know that during depression, the main problem is that lack of effective demand, and this is what the same which has led to depression. The Great Depression of 1930s is created by lack of effective demand in the economy, and as a remedy to that, or as a cure to that, what Keynes has suggested is government spending. So as a cure to this particular problem, as a cure to Great Depression, the cure is what? It is government spending. The theory that extended unemployment benefits help to stabilize the consumption and investment of individuals who became unemployed during a recession. On the other hand, you can see that the other side of the coin reveals the opposite thing. Similarly, the theory says that contractionary fiscal policies. That means that when you have expansion, the opposite of that is contraction, right? So the government is trying to reduce money in the hands of people. What the government does is that the government would increase the level of taxes. The government would try to reduce its expenditure. So the public spending would be less. The government would try to reduce its debt. It will try to curb inflation in the economy. In relation to the formula of aggregate demand, the fiscal policy directly influences government expenditure element and indirectly impacts consumption as well as investment element. That's all about the influence of fiscal policy on aggregate demand. Coming to the influence of monetary policy and aggregate demand, we can see that monetary policy, as I have already told you, it's a set of policies taken by the central bank of an economy. In the case of India, it is the Reserve Bank of India, which is acting as the central bank of the country. Monetary policy, it is something which is enacted by manipulating the money supply in the economy. How can the central bank help in manipulating money supply in the economy? It will be using several instruments like the credit, CRR, CRR, SLR. So many there are many credit instruments used by the central bank of a country. Open market operations are there. There are several instruments used by the central bank of an economy. So the money supply, it is something which influences the interest rate, right? So that is something which has a role to play with respect to inflation, when both of which are major determinants of employment, cost of debt, consumption, all these kinds of things. Coming to the case of expansionary monetary policy, that means that the central bank is trying to pump money into the economy. What the central bank does is that the central bank would lead to decrease in interest rate. I mean, it would take policies in such a way to decrease its interest rate. All the CRR would be reduced, SLR would be reduced, all these things would be reduced. As a result, the commercial bank would be able to help people with by giving them money. So money will flow from the central bank to the commercial bank to the people ultimately. So all these actions would increase the money supply in the interest rate, and which money supply in the economy, and it will reduce the interest rates in the economy, which will make people to come and take loans from banks. So there would be businessmen coming to the banks and borrow. So as a result, there would be pumping of money to the economy, and debt funded business expansion can positively affect consumer spending and investment through employment, thereby increasing aggregate demand in the economy. That's all about how expansionary monetary policy would lead to increase in aggregate demand. Coming to the exporter side, we can see that exporters too would benefit from inflation, right? So because their products would become relatively cheaper for the consumers in some other countries, so they can produce more and they can sell more. Coming to the contractionary monetary policy, this is enacted to reduce money supply into the economy. So during the times of inflation, like what India is facing now, the government, what the central bank does is that the central bank would cut short money supply in the economy. So it would increase the interest rate, it would increase the CRR, it would increase SLR. So tightening money supply would discourage business expansion. So there won't be much consumer spending. This is something which negatively impacts exporters as well. Now, uh, coming specifically to the question, how does monetary policy increase aggregate demand? This is what we have already seen. Monetary policy, these are policies taken by the central bank of a country. So, sorry, central bank of a country, and this would include lowering of interest rates and engaging in open market operations. And this is to purchase securities. Okay, and this is mainly when during expansionary credit control, sorry, expansionary monetary policy, and these have the effect of making it easier or cheaper to borrow money. So people will come and borrow money, people will come and take loans, so money will pump from bank to people. So there would be an increase in money supply. Coming to the role of fiscal policy in increasing aggregate demand, what is coming to, so when it is mean when does it lead to increase in aggregate demand? When the government goes for expansionary fiscal policy, there would be reduction in taxes, there would be increase in public expenditure. So this will make money pump from the hands of government to the hands of people. So that's it. Is what is the aggregate supply? So this can be thought as something which is opposite to the concept of aggregate demand. In Keynesian economics, you can see that it is the total output of an economy, that is aggregate supply. What is to supplied in economy? So its aggregate, it shows aggregate supply, and in theory there exists an equilibrium between aggregate supply and aggregate demand. So that is known as the point of equilibrium. So that's all about today. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos, and you can be a part of my Telegram channel and Telegram group to discuss your doubts. I'll be providing the links of both in the description box. That's all for today. Thank you.